Hey everybody, happy Friday. JJ again here for the ASUS PC DIY Show weekly live stream, and we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. We've got a lot of new announcements this week with some pretty cool and pretty exciting product introductions, especially for some of you that have been waiting for some more updates regarding some of our new passive X570 series motherboards, and I think a really long-awaited kind of introduction to some white peripherals with our Moonlight White series. So we've got a lot of products to be able to dive into and kind of detail and give you guys some insights in terms of what's going to be coming up in the not too distant future. So I'm excited to kind of jump into that, and hopefully everybody is doing good. Hey Leighton, happy to have you here, man. Thanks for joining us here on the stream as always. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off first and foremost, just in terms of UEFI updates. Normally, for those of you guys that are checking out the stream, you're generally aware that usually on Fridays, I will provide you guys essentially a UEFI announcement regarding our Intel and AMD series motherboards. Those are posted in our PC DIY group, which if you guys want to make sure to check it out, make sure to check out your respective links, description information, whether you're checking us out on, let's say, Facebook or YouTube or wherever it might be, so that you can join us in our group there to be able to get kind of the most up-to-date information on any of our products. There's no announcements for today, so no worries in that regards, guys. But as always, make sure to keep it tuned to our kind of Friday announcements, which is generally when I go ahead and post any of the respective updates. For those of you who may be wondering, though, on the AMD side of the fence, we're continuing to roll out the latest AGESA update from AMD, which is the 1.2.0.3 patch B, patch C release. And that's predominantly focused at users that are looking to be able to go ahead and leverage the work that AMD's done to be able to help to improve overall interoperability for USB and kind of stability for USB. If your system is running fine without any issues, don't worry about it. It's not critical. Kind of along with that, if you haven't necessarily recently updated your board, or maybe you're building a system and maybe you're looking to actually take advantage of AMD's latest 5000G series processors, then that's actually also where you would want to make sure to have the UEFI fairly up to date. It doesn't have to be the most recent UEFI, but a fairly recent UEFI release will be required so that you can go ahead and drop in one of these AMD Ryzen processors, which feature Radeon graphics built in. So it's a pretty exciting introduction, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But again, no big updates for you guys in terms of the UEFI releases for today. So let's go ahead and first talk a little bit about this guy right here. So this is our Tough Gaming B550 series motherboard. Great board if you're looking to be able to build a system that's kind of really targeted towards kind of first-time builders where maybe you don't necessarily have as much a budget, but you definitely still want a stable and reliable board. The exciting part about this board is this guy right here. This is a Ryzen 5600G series processor. And so the really cool thing about this CPU is that it actually features Radeon graphics built into it. So definitely in the current state, I know for some of you, you find it a little bit challenging to be able to get a graphics card. And so for those of you that are also in a little bit more of a limited budget, but maybe want to be able to get building right off the bat, this is maybe going to be a really good option for you. You've got that modern Ryzen architecture to be able to give you great performance for all your types of workloads as well as gaming, but you've also actually got a Radeon graphics core there, so you can go ahead and utilize, the onboard display output and be able to go ahead and get up and running. And then, of course, over time, if you want to be able to upgrade to a discrete graphics card later on, then you can still go ahead and do that. As pretty much in all intents and purposes, there's no limitations beyond the fact that this CPU does have to essentially accommodate a little bit of its performance envelope in space because it's also accommodating that integrated Radeon-based graphics. So when we talk about the kind of performance, what are you kind of talking about? It's actually quite competent. With the Radeon-based graphics architecture that you have on this GPU, you can really comfortably run a wide range of games at, I'd say, high-quality 720p settings, 900p, and definitely for some titles, even 1080p. It really depends. We'll actually be diving a little bit deeper into this actually topic in our PC DIY group, as well as in a future live stream, or give you some tips and tricks on being able to maximize the performance through some options inside the UEFI, maybe potential memory pairings, and a couple of other insights that if you're looking to be able to go ahead and take advantage of these 5000G series processors with an ASUS series board, how you can get that best experience possible. But I'm definitely a big fan of these. And again, our entire 500 series of motherboards, whether you're talking about the B550 series chipset or our X570 series, all have UEFI updates that allow you to support this CPU. So you can drop it in and you'll be good to go. Hey, Snef, happy to have you here, man. Always great to have you here on the stream. Hey, Kevin, also great to have you here on the stream as well. So Kevin actually has a question regarding, I think, Windows 11 support, Windows 10. If you guys aren't familiar aren't aware, we actually did do a Windows 11 post in the PC DIY group a while back. It has a full kind of breakdown of all the information you want to keep in mind in terms of firmware TPM options that we have on a wide range of our motherboards. We also have an updated support site, which actually will list you all the motherboards, the options that you do need to enable. But an important thing that we have done recently in our continued kind of partnership with Microsoft is that we have essentially released optimized Windows 11 UEFI releases. Now, this is going to continue essentially up until we get to the formal release of Windows 11, which will happen later in Q4. Now, for some of you that may essentially already be running kind of beta releases, developmental releases of Windows 11, you actually probably already found that you don't need these quote-unquote Windows 11 builds to be flashed on your board to be able to have Windows 11 work. These builds are really kind of designed to be able to offer users that once we get to the formal release, essentially a more streamlined experience. They won't have to go in and disable CSM. They won't have to worry about certain parameters, which will need to be enabled and adjusted so that you can correctly actually boot into a Windows 11 installation environment. So for all intents and purposes, if you're already running Windows 11 right now, you're happy with it, then you are good to go. As always, though, do keep in mind that we don't officially support beta UEFI releases, and you essentially do want to work towards ultimately that if you're going to transition to this as your full kind of formal desktop environment, we'd recommend, of course, until we offer not only formal releases, but also you want to have ideally qualified formal releases for all your corresponding drivers. And these will definitely be coming as we approach the formal Windows 11 release. So these drivers would include everything from your graphics to your networking to your chipset to your audio and all the other kind of software that is required. That being noted, we definitely have a lot amount of users in the community that are running kind of current builds right now on ASUS series motherboards with these new UEFI releases and older UEFI releases and are running without any issues. So if that's something you want to try out, then definitely the more the merrier. All right. So yeah, Zach's actually got a question right here just asking about overall kind of Windows 11 support. So it's pretty straightforward. If it's a modern series motherboard from ASUS, you have full Windows 11 support across the board. So that pretty much means all current AMD-based chipsets. So whether that's going to be B550, X570, that actually also would include B450, whether it's first gen or kind of the secondary refresh that we have, A520, Z590, Z490, all of those active chipsets, TXR40, WRX80, all of them support Windows 11. So if it's a current chipset focus, 100%, there will be essentially Windows 11 UEFI releases that we will issue out there. As far as whether you get into older platforms, then you do have to kind of account and maybe look at maybe some of the support documentation we have on whether or not it correctly supports, let's say, elements like the firmware TPM requirements, the CPU requirements, and there's quite a number of other things that you would want to essentially keep in mind. But modern essentially platforms that are current as of right now are not going to have any concerns, so you don't need to worry about that. And definitely any of the new boards that are pretty much have been released recently or are going to be coming out, we're going to have you covered in terms of having Windows 11 support. But do keep in mind that it's still right now essentially a kind of beta level operating system release. So you're not necessarily going to go to the support site for your model and see Windows 11 drivers. As we get to the closer formal release, that's when you'll start to see the corresponding support pages updated to actually reflect that. And that's because those drivers do have to not only pass internal ASUS qualification, but also need to pass Microsoft formal qualification. All right. Hey, Kevin. So we actually made an announcement post actually about all kind of B550 series on 400, 500 series motherboards getting that. We have already kind of actually released, I think probably close to about 70% of these updates, and probably the majority of them will release as we get towards the end of August. Our overall kind of internal roadmap timeline is to have the pretty much the majority of all 400 and 500 series motherboards upgraded with the latest AGESA update. To essentially the 1.2.0.3 latest patch designation release. So as I've noted earlier in the stream, essentially if you want to be kept up to date, just watch these streams on Fridays or join our group and watch out for the UEFI announcement post, which I put on Friday, and you'll essentially be kept up to date as soon as we have those UEFI releases that are posted. And there's really kind of a mix. It could be for the Prime series, it could be for the ROG Strix series, it could be for the ROG series or ProArt series, whichever corresponding models. But we have already confirmed that we will be rolling out those UEFI releases across the board. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into one of our next big updates. All right, guys, and that's going to be some new product announcements. So the first one that I want to talk about is, I think, a really, really exciting one. I'm going to go ahead and switch off my cool Tough Gaming B550 board here and actually put one that I'm really excited about, and that's going to be this guy right here. This right here is the second in our passively cooled X570 update. So we previously announced essentially 4 new motherboards that were going to be released for the X570 chipset. And the first board was the Crosshair 8 Extreme. And I know a lot of you guys have really been a big fan of that. But this board right here is a really just beautiful board, and it's an entirely different focus, entirely different segment. This right here is going to be the ProArt X570 Creator Wi-Fi. It actually really kind of goes side by side with another board that I've got right here next to me, which is going to be this guy. And that is the ProArt B550 Creator. And when you kind of look at them side by side, they're going to look really similar. They're both beautiful boards. You can see that they continue this new design trend that we had with our ProArt series, which is kind of a sibling series to our WS, or our workstation series, which we've had pretty much almost as long as the ROG series, for literally almost about 15 years. So great options for professionals and prosumers. But the ProArt series really also aligns with a lot of what we're doing, I think, to kind of a more standardized kind of market that exists right now for kind of a prosumer professional. It's specifically in kind of a content creation wheelhouse of focusing on videography, whether they're focusing on photo editing, video editing, 3D modeling, any kind of those professional content creation type workflows. And you can see here that as opposed to kind of ROG, which has got a little bit more edgy stylized aesthetic, even though it's really clean and monochromatic, here we've got monochrome design. So it's still very clean, very neutral, but you have these really nice gold accents, which I think just kind of elevate the overall look and feel of these boards. So really, really cool design in terms of the overall design aesthetic. And we're going to dive a little bit more into some of the really cool elements of this board, but I just kind of want to show these two kind of side by side, and we'll get into some of the generalized specifications. So let me go ahead and set this guy back down here. And we're going to jump into taking a closer look at this guy, the X570 Creator. All right. Very, very cool. All right, guys. So give me one second. Let me just see how we're looking on any type of questions or commentary or anything like that. Looking good. Okay, great. All right, guys. So with this board, really kind of the focus was that we wanted to be able to offer a board that really kind of met the latest generation of connectivity standard. So here, the couple of really kind of key exciting standards that you're looking at is that one, it's going to be just like the Extreme board and like the B550 Creator, where you've got Thunderbolt 4 technology, which is really exciting if you're looking for that ultra high speed external storage connectivity to, let's say, external SSDs or kind of RAID array configurations. It's got 10G based networking on there, along with dual LAN implementation with 2.5 gigabit. It has Wi-Fi 6E, so that ultra high speed, low latency Wi-Fi connectivity that's on there. USB 3.Gen 2 by 2 based connectivity, of course, with a rear Type-C and, of course, your internal Type-C header. You've got 3 M.2 slots that are built onto the motherboard as well. Overall, I think there's a total of 14 super speed USB ports that are essentially on the board, and then 3 internal USB 2 ports. So in total, 20 ports. So you've got a huge level of connectivity that's built onto this board. So it's really going to give those creators a lot of flexibility and really be able to set things up. And keep in mind that all of our X570 series boards also support PCIe bifurcation support. So that means that if you wanted to use, let's say, that secondary physical by 16 slot and drop in our Hyper M.2 expansion card, you could also then have another 4 M.2 SSDs. So if you were in a very kind of critical kind of storage environment where you need to run a lot of drives, you could drop one of those into this board and you would be good to go. So a lot of really robust options in terms of connectivity. Hey, Tyler. So yeah, we actually talked a little bit about this earlier in terms of compatibility, but all ASUS essentially AMD 500 series motherboards have Windows 11 compatibility. So keep in mind, Windows 11 is not going to come out until sometime in Q4. But essentially, for intents and purposes, right now the boards are ready from a base UEFI standpoint. There will be more formalized UEFI releases and formal drivers coming from all corresponding parties at a later date. But rest assured that if you decide that you're going to want to shift over to Windows 11 once the official release comes out, all current 500 series motherboards are supported. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this board, a little bit under, let's say, a closer look here. So go ahead and just set this guy down here. And we're going to cut over to our kind of closer cam and give you guys a little bit of a cooler kind of close-up look here. So give me a second here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look here. All right. All right, guys, so here you can see that we've got the ProArt. It's got a really nice, clean aesthetic. The first thing you can actually see is power up your imagination. Of course, the nice cover here for the actual rear I/O itself. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this a little bit. There we go. You'll see, first up, very large, massive heatsink assembly. I'm actually going to go ahead and remove these heatsinks here in a moment. You can actually see the high performance 14+2 power stage delivery design here. So you don't have to worry about running any Ryzen series processor, 5800X, 5900, 5950. You can definitely run here with no issues in terms of stable and reliable operation. You can comfortably also, if you're looking to increase performance, go with PBO. You could definitely do that. These designs, they're very clean and minimal, but they're a little bit deceptive. There is actually multiple fins that you'll actually can see right there. So there's one fin, 2, 3, 4 total there, and then there's fins here on the back, and then their overall density. So they actually do a very good job at being able to effectively dissipate the heat from the power stages. And they also are dual contact in nature. So what that means is that those inductors, those chokes, this heatsink is making contact with not only the power stages, but also those inductors. If we take a look right there, you can actually see these are ProCool power connectors. These are actually thicker pins, so they actually support better efficiency, lower temperatures at the point of connection, and a higher level of amperage. Of course, you've got your DRAM, and we spend a lot of time in terms of what we call the trace layout on topology enhancements to give you really good interoperability and compatibility on our boards. There's, of course, our DOCP options, so you can easily go ahead and enable your XMP profiles once you go ahead and drop in the memory. You can see the USB Type-C internal connector right there, and that is a USB 3.2 Gen 2 base connector. Over here, you'll see the start of a lot of headers. There's a total of 6 headers on here, so you can definitely run complex multi-fan build configurations. For those of you, if you do consider kind of RGB implementations, you do have 3 addressable RGB headers that are on there. And keep in mind that for your headers like this, as well as for your kind of chassis header or your CPU fan headers, you can use like PWM splitters, so that if you do want essentially some more connectivity, you do have that available to you. Right here, you'll see, of course, your front USB 3, your standard connector. When we take a closer look here at the slot layout configuration, you're going to see here one M.2 slot, and then down here at the bottom, there's going to be 2. Now, one of the cool things, let's go ahead and just orient this a little bit more so you can actually see it here. But let's show you some of the actual cool design elements here. So the first one is going to be, this was a recent introduction that we made on some of our motherboards, and that's going to be using what we call captive screws. So that just makes the installation process easier for you, that you don't have to worry about losing the screw when you essentially remove these heat sinks, which I'm a big fan of. So you can see right there, I removed the heat sink, but the screws, they will stay in place, right? You're good to go. And you can see right there, you've got your M.2 slot. Now that's, of course, PCIe, NVMe, Gen 4 support. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to show you another cool design. Some of you that are familiar with our Z590 series of motherboards or checked out our live streams recently on some of the motherboards will actually know that we implemented a really cool feature. So traditionally, actually, let me do this. I'm going to switch boards for you guys, and I'm going to show you how you kind of traditionally look at installing an M.2 drive, and then we'll look at the new way that we have it on this motherboard, which is called our QLatch design implementation. So if we swap over here to our B550 motherboard, here you can see we've got our M.2 base SSD, and it's installed traditionally as you would see. So here's the actual standoff, and then there's a screw, and you have to kind of have the right tip screw, and ideally a magnetic screwdriver tip helps, and then you don't want to lose or drop that screw because it happens to a lot of people. Sometimes they don't even have the right threading screw and they can strip it, but you essentially need to angle in that drive, set it down, and then screw it in. So that's the traditional way, right? Everybody's pretty familiar with how to do that. But on our new motherboards like this one, you can see that there's actually an integrated latch mechanism. So this actually makes installation quite a bit easier. So I just take my drive right here, I can angle in the drive, and then from there, you can see I lock it into place. And now the M.2 SSD has been secured. So there's no screws. So it's a much simpler M.2 installation process. This is an ASUS innovation as part of our Q series designs. We've done a lot of Q series designs. Actually, another one right here, as you can see, with single-sided memory design, where you only have to latch the memory from one side. And then here, this is not obstructed. So even if you had a graphics card in there, you don't have to worry about that latch kind of running into you. So there's a lot of these type of design implementations that we have on our motherboards, but that's pretty cool. So if we were to remove the heatsink down here, you've got 2 more M.2 SSD slots, and those also support the QLatch design implementation. As we kind of look a little bit more down here at the bottom, you have the isolated audio design. So this is the Crystal Sound 3.0 S21220 audio codec. It also supports our ASUS AI noise canceling technology. It's 2 ways. That's great because it works with both, standard analog and digital based microphones, and help to clean up the audio for incoming voice chats, which is really nice if you're, of course, doing any type of, meetings online or using any type of kind of conferencing software or anything like that. If we take a look here, let's see if we go a little bit lower there. Give me a second, and we'll focus in here, guys, for you. There you go. So you can see you've got all your I/O. So you've got Wi-Fi 6E, and you've got your Thunderbolt 2 Type-C, you got your 10G, 2.5G, and then you've got your multi-channel line level audio connections, and then you even have your USB BIOS flashback. So pretty much all the connections you could ask for are present on this motherboard. So very, very rich in terms of the overall connection implementations. So very, very, very cool board. This board will be coming out in the not too distant future. It will be kind of aligning with the overall release that we will have for the Crosshair 8 Extreme. So those will be the first of the actual X570 boards that we'll be offering a refresh on. There will be 2 additional boards where we'll have an ROG Strix X570-E, kind of version 2, and then we also have a Tough Gaming board, and those will be coming a little bit later. Both of these boards, you're kind of probably looking towards the end of kind of August timeframe as we move into September for a little bit overall broader channel availability. But again, I think for creators that are out there, both the B550 ProArt Creator as well as the X570 ProArt Creator board, I think are going to be fantastic options for you guys. So very, very cool boards. Really excited about both of these. Let me just see, is there a question right here? So Zach was asking about recognizing 4 SSDs if you use the HyperIGUS M.2 add-in card. Essentially, the Hyper M.2 add-in card, as I noted, uses what's called PCI bifurcation. So it essentially splits the lanes from one slot to essentially lanes and slots that are in the add-in card. So that's the reason why it needs to use those lanes from the CPU. So traditionally, you would have like one primary slot at the top, which you could use, but usually your first 2 physical by 16 slots are going to be wired into the CPU. So most users would have a graphics card on the first slot, and then here on this second slot is what they would use. So that will, of course, drop you down in terms of this being a by 8, but that effectively doesn't really have any performance differential for general, really any type of gaming or even kind of content created centric workloads. If you absolutely had to have true physical by 16, then you're going to need to move to HEDET platforms like TRX 40, take for instance on AMD, where you even have more PCI lanes to be able to give you that type of flexibility. But once you drop that in there, essentially each one of those 4 slots would then have their corresponding bandwidth supplied so that you could essentially have that performance for those 4 additional drives. And you can have different types of kind of configurations available to you if you want, if you want to have just essentially those drives available as logical volumes, then you could do that. So you could have actually just 4 independent drives. And if you wanted to actually have them set up as a RAID, then you could also do that. So the choice is really kind of up to you in terms of how you want to configure the Hyper M.2 expansion card. So hopefully that answers your question there. Okay. I'm not sure, lastly, on your question there where you're asking about another motherboard, but like I said, you want to use slots that are wired from the CPU. If you're using a chipset-based slot, then you're really not utilizing the card in the intended fashion, and the slot also might not correctly actually support PCI bifurcation. So you do actually want to check the documentation on the motherboard in question. Okay. All right. Very, very cool. So that is a general update here. I'm just going to show you guys a couple of just quick images on this board, just so you can kind of take a little bit of a closer look, even though we kind of showed it off close up to you there. We kind of ran through a lot of the core features on it, but I'll show you some just general shots, and we will go to our next announcement, guys. So very, very cool there. All right. Let me get that propped back up there because I think it's just such a nice looking board. Okay. There we go. Oh, yes. Very, very nice. Okay. So let me go ahead and bring up a couple of images for you guys. And here we go. Yep, creator. All right. So we will load up these guys for you right here. Hey, Mark, I'm sorry to hear that, you feel that way. Actually, we really pride ourselves actually on our overall kind of experience that we provide to our offers in terms of that regard. We're actually one of the only manufacturers that offers broad advanced RMA support on many of actually our higher end based motherboards. Actually, most motherboard manufacturers do not offer even advanced RMA handling. But definitely if you have, experiential feedback on their specific scenario that you've had, I definitely would recommend reaching out to our service and support team. We have dedicated contact emails on our website where you can definitely relay that information so it can be reviewed by our service and management team if you had a certain experience or a certain situation. And I welcome you to join into our community. We have actually many users that have taken advantage of our service and support experience and definitely had positive experience. And we do always actively look at trying to improve upon the experience that we're providing to our users across service for all of our different product categories. We also think that we're showing a commitment to our users by things like the PCDIY group. PCDIY can sometimes be a complicated kind of undertaking. There can be things that sometimes users incorrectly send products in for support when actually it might be because they don't have a full understanding of maybe things like overclocking CPU variability or running mixed profiles of memory where they think that it should be compatible, but they're not realizing that by running a duplicated kit of memory, they're actually causing the issue that they're running into. So there can be a lot of subtle things that can be a little bit more kind of complicated to understand, especially when you run into experiencing issues. And through offering things like, our DIY stream here, Q&A sessions, the kind of the guides and the feedback that we provide within our group and in other spaces, we hope to better inform our customers and hopefully have them have a better experience. With that here, go ahead and let's take a look at the creator board. A really great looking board. Like I said, you can see it's got that clean monochrome aesthetic, gold accents right there. See that nice little angled design. Of course, the chipset is fully passive, so there's no chipset-based fan. Keep in mind, though, for the vast majority of users, they find that it's not a concern with the chipset fan. I would actually say the majority of users that are running X570 boards right now have not commented on that, but some users that are very critical may prefer that. But do keep in mind for our boards that do feature fans on them, we're using the highest rated fans in the industry, over 60,000 hours with a seal design. It's also self-lubricating. It's a specialized Delta L10 bearing. It's very premium-based implementation, superior than what other companies are offering. Here you can see all that rear connectivity that's on the board. A little bit of an angled shot right there. Another shot for you, just kind of letting you see the expansiveness. And keep in mind, here you can see actually the 3 different locations for the M.2 SSDs that can be equipped on this board. And that is a little bit of an upgrade compared to most of the X570 boards, which are generally 2 M.2 base SSDs. And there you can also see that quick latch that we talked about right there. And there you go. So that is a quick recap on the X570 ProArt Creator Board. Very cool, I think, update for you guys. So next things up is going to be, I think, another really exciting update, and one that I think a lot of people have been hoping that we were going to have something for, and that's going to be an introduction to a white range of peripherals. So ASUS has actually already come out with one of, I think, the broadest white ecosystems that really exists in the industry. We actually have updated white products on our system side of our fence, such as Tough Gaming Series and ROG Series based laptops, which are in white. We have the ROG Phone, which is actually also offered kind of in a white. And when you take a look at our component ecosystem, we have the ROG Delta headset, which is in white. We have the ROG Strix LC, which is in white. We have Strix White Series PSUs. We have white graphics cards. We have 2 white chassis with the Tough Gaming GT501 and the Helios, which are in white as well. So actually quite a number of items. But some people have been asking, well, when are you going to do something when it comes to your peripherals in white? And I'm excited to be able to let you guys know that it's going to be coming in the not too distant future. So let's go ahead and take a look at this range of Moonlight white based peripherals. All right, so give me 1 second here to load this up for you guys. Very cool. Okay. Hey, David, thanks for your feedback. Fantastic to know that you've had a great experience with ASUS, and happy to know that, and I'm glad to have your support definitely over the years. So here you can see, this is the Moonlight White series. You'll see that we're going to be introducing a keyboard, a headset, actually a pair of our Cetra in-ear monitors, as well as a mouse. So these are going to actually be the 4 accessories in white. We'll take a little bit of a closer look. And definitely, if you guys are looking for a deeper dive into kind of the respective features and functions, I would strongly recommend make sure to check out some of our prior live streams where we dive a little bit more into this. But let me go ahead and actually just load up a couple of images here first. We'll first go ahead and take a look at the ROG Strix Go gaming headset. And also, I want to give you guys a little bit of a plug. We're going to be doing next week a live stream for our wireless range of peripherals. So if you're interested in anything kind of wireless related, definitely make sure to check out that stream and we'll dive into it. But here you go. ROG Strix Go in white. This is a lightweight base headset. I like that it's got a detachable base microphone. It's comfortable. Good breathability overall. It supports analog-based connectivity, but you can see that it's got a really nice, clean aesthetic. I like this kind of subtle dual tone where you've got the gray and then you have the white, where not necessarily everything is all in white, but it's very complementary. It's also got a nice range of motion and flexibility in terms of how you can kind of fold it and bend it. You do have some on-ear adjustment as well on this model. I do like that if you want to kind of rest it on your neck, you can go ahead and pull down the ear cups and you can rest them flat down against your neck as well. And they also support a little bit of folding and adjustment, which is really nice if you're looking for just a little bit more flexibility and kind of maybe throwing them into a bag or something like a backpack or something along those lines. So that is going to be first up there with the ROG Strix Go headset in that Moonlight White. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look here at the ROG Strix Impact 2, which is a kind of compact mouse. This is a really great option for those of you that are looking for something that's lightweight, responsive, has a really good feature set in terms of overall design. You know, if you kind of favor a little bit more, I'd say in that kind of claw fingertip type style, this is maybe definitely up a mouse that you're going to want to look at. It's got some really good design elements too, in terms of course, you can still customize the switches on here, high grade optical sensor that's built onto the unit, you know, really solid build quality, which is a hallmark of our ROG mice. And let's take a little bit of a closer look here. So you can see right here, we've got our 100% PTFE feet that are on here. That's great to see. Really smooth movement and tracking. You got your 2 side buttons right there. Some nice texture there to give you a little bit better kind of grip when you're moving the mouse. Really nice kind of ROG logo that's right there. And these are, of course, fully separated left and right, so you don't have to worry about false depressions. And then a little bit of that nice kind of subtle lighting there that's on the front that's also complemented by the lighting, which is on the encoder, essentially the scroll wheel right there. So that is the ROG Strix the ROG Strix Impact 2 mouse in Moonlight White. And next, we'll take a look at the keyboard, which I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, super excited about the keyboard. So let me go ahead and load up the keyboard right here for you guys. And the cool thing about this keyboard is that this will actually be pretty much this version of this guy right here. It's our TKL version, the ROG Strixscope TKL, one of my absolute favorite keyboards. You can get it right now. And we're actually going to be doing a little bit of an announcement in a little bit, talking about this version, where we're also going to be releasing our NX version. So we have offered a Cherry MX version, which is a great option for those of you that want the tried and true option in terms of a Cherry-based switch. But we're going to have the ROG NX-based switch version, which features a little bit of kind of specialized ROG customization, which we've developed after kind of some great kind of polling and feedback from the community to, I think, be able to offer them a feel which offers an improved user experience, while still also giving you kind of the benefits of that interoperability if you want to be able to customize things like keycaps. But this is essentially what the keyboard looks like when you're not looking at it in white. And now let's go ahead and check it out here in the Moonlight White. Beautiful design. And of course, you could already kind of customize your current ROG Strixscope TKL or any one of our Cherry MX keyboards with white keycaps if you wanted to do that. But the big difference here is that the top shell, of course, is also matching. So you really got to kind of get that holistic look and feel. Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. So Connor is saying that actually one of the cool elements right here is that there's actually front bar lighting that you have on this model. So let me see if I can actually plug this in, and you guys will be able to see that a little bit more closely. But you can't see it here in the photo where you actually have the lighting here. And of course, keep in mind this is full RGB lighting. But it's a beautiful keyboard. And of course, for those of you that haven't utilized a TKL keyboard, really the big benefit is going to be the kind of the proximity in terms of how you can line things up from an ergonomic perspective. You can actually see right here, I'm using our Falchion, which is even more compact than the TKL. Very, very, very compact keyboard. But with a TKL, you really kind of have this optimal placement where you don't have to strain here, this kind of portion of your arm and shoulder, and you can have your mouse be closer to the actual keyboard, and just overall gives you a better experience. And this is, of course, something that we've already kind of been thinking about, where we have other keyboards like our Claymore, which allow you to even detach the numpad so that if you really need to have a numpad, then you have that available to you. Cool thing about this keyboard, it does come with a detachable cable. It's USB-C cable, and plug this in here. Okay. And there we go. So you can actually see right there, you've got that really nice RGB light bar that's on this keyboard. So that would be the same that you would see on this model. So if we go back here and we kind of go a little bit side by side, you'll see right there that that kind of light bar in the bottom, it's in white, but you could, of course, customize that to what lighting. So like blue, red, pinks, purples, greens, if you want to have this kind of rainbow, then you could entirely go that route. So a lot of flexibility right there. So 100% Connor, I agree with you right there. Very, very cool. Hey, Thomas. I think we have quite a number of features that actually you won't find on competitive-based designs. We were the first vendor to unilaterally put out USB-C on kind of all our active devices. If you actually compare some of our keyboards to some of the other competitors, we tend to actually have more onboard memory profiles. I actually also will say that, we've got some other elements like our RG Strixscope optical switches, which actually offer superior performance and actually also give you benefits in terms of a wobble-free design with actually more consistent illumination. So I would definitely say that, respectively, take a look at some of the different models. I think you'll definitely be surprised that we're offering innovations and functionality which aren't necessarily present across all vendors. And I think definitely across the board right now in terms of our peripheral lineup, we definitely have some competitive products and really some unique and design implementations. Again, I also think elements like here, like the Falchion, is a great example of something like this, where compact-based design, right? This is smaller than a TKL. It's got an integrated touch bar right here, which is fantastic. It has the 2.4 gigahertz low latency wireless connection, and even kind of the thoughtful things that we think about, like having like a cover that comes included with it, which you can use in kind of two fashions to protect the keyboard when you travel with it, and even add kind of a layer of diffused lighting when you dock to with it. So there's a lot of really great design elements that I think that we have thought about when we're looking at the evaluation and the design of our range of peripherals. So hopefully you guys are really excited about it, because I'm really excited about this range of our Moonlight white-based peripherals. Okay, so let's keep moving things along. All right, guys, so we talked about our Creator, we talked about the Moonlight White. Let's go ahead and talk about an exciting monitor. So this is one I think a lot of people have been reading about. We recently gave you guys an update on the ROG Strix XG27UQR, which was a 4K 144 hertz monitor. And now recently we've got an update for the Tough Gaming side, very similar specifications, but the big thing that's going to be new on this guy is that it's going to be featuring HDMI 2.1, as well as support for adaptive sync for both NVIDIA and for AMD based systems. All right. As I took a little bit of a refresher there, guys, let's go ahead and take a look here at this monitor. Okay, so let me load this guy up for you right here. And here we go, VG. And I'll load up some secondary photos so that we can actually take a little bit of a closer look at the entirety. But this is it right here. This is the VG28UQ L1A. So while that is definitely a mouthful in terms of the overall kind of the model name, it's actually got some pretty impressive specifications. So this is 28 inches, 4K. It's a fast IPS-based display, 144 hertz at 4K via DSC support, which is through DisplayPort, 1 milliseconds gray to gray. You have FreeSync premium support, as well as NVIDIA G-Sync compatibility. it supports Display HDR 400 standard. And while some people definitely might be critical of that, what I would definitely say is that the benefit of having an HDR 400 certified can actually still benefit you in an SDR environment, which is probably what most gamers and users that pick up this monitor will use as standard SDR. And the reason being is that because it means that the monitor inherently has a higher level of brightness. Most probably users that are utilizing kind of a more basic entry-level monitor probably are ranging somewhere between about 200 to maybe up to 300 nits. Having a monitor that's operating closer in that 275 to 400 nits of brightness really allows for a more punchy, dynamic experience, and also can help to benefit you when you enable things like, let's say, like ELMB or using Shadow Boost technology, which this monitor also features. So if we actually take a closer look, let's go ahead and take a look at the product page for this guy, and we'll take a look at some of the cool features that this monitor has. So give me 1 second here. And we'll go ahead and bring up some of the other images for this monitor. There we go. So the cool thing too also on this monitor is that it does come with our display widget software. If you're not familiar with display widget, the thing I really love about it is display widget actually gives you the flexibility to adjust all your on-screen display inside Windows. So you don't have to physically touch the monitor in terms of any buttons. Here you can see the rear design. It's got a little bit of an updated styling as well as the new Tough Gaming emblem logo, which aligns with all of our new Tough Gaming series products. Nice, clean, compact design bezel. You have pass-through routing down there at the bottom for your cables. You've got 5 connections right there, along with your USB hub and an actual analog connection there for something like, let's say, headphones. So 2 of those are going to be HDMI 2.0, 2 of those are going to be HDMI 2.1, and then you're going to have your display port with DSC support, and then, like I said, the USB 3 hub, which a lot of people forget about, but I think is a cool feature, especially if you want to run additional items in, whether it's going to be like an external hard drive, maybe run your peripherals into that, and then run your monitor cable to then your PC. That could be an option to kind of keep your system configuration a little bit clean. And overall, this also has a wide range of adjustments. You're going to have 4 different levels where you can do a tilt, pivot, a swivel, and height adjustment, which I think is really important when you talk about ergonomics and kind of adjusting your monitor, how you're utilizing it. You do, of course, have the flexibility if you want to put this on a VESA mount, put it on like a monitor arm, then you could definitely go ahead and do that. Yes, and you definitely made a point there where the adaptive sync for both is pretty rare. You'll actually generally find that in most situations, most of the monitors are going to either usually be G-Sync or they're going to be AMD FreeSync, but you generally won't support both. So the fact that this actually monitor does give you the ability to support FreeSync and G-Sync compatibility is really cool, so that depending on whichever GPU configuration you're running, or if maybe you're a potential console user and you want to be able to also do that, that's where that kind of gives you that flexibility and really provides, I think, the best experience possible in that regard. Hey, Matt, asking about the PG3.5. What I would recommend, if we haven't recently talked about it, if you check out our PC DIY Facebook group, we actually have a product release calendar. It includes some of our newest release monitors that also haven't yet come out, but might have been announced. An example would be like the PG3 U2 UQ, which is kind of the step below the PG32 UQX, which is our mini LED-based monitor. So all new monitors that we've announced are made essentially updates on. I do generally try to provide a weekly updated refresh of essentially available information on what our target release information is there. So members of the group really benefit from being able to have access to that information, and it can also directly tag me if needed in the group if you guys want to find out a little bit more. But generally what we try to do here on the stream is that once a product is essentially going out to what we call our channel distribution, so essentially is coming out from us after we receive maybe the first shipment and then going directly to that e-tailer or going to distribution to then go to more channel partners, we give you guys visibility. So then that essentially means that you usually have between probably about a 2 to about 4 week buffer from when we begin to kind of roll products out to when you're going to see them available. So an example for this monitor right here with the Tough Gaming display is that you would probably see availability for this towards kind of probably the middle of September timeframe is what we probably be projecting for that. Okay. All right. So that covers that guy. Let me go ahead and see. It's actually one other thing right here. If I can show this to you guys. Yep, there we go. So if you guys just wanted to kind of, like I said, check this out a little bit more, of course, the product page is already up for this model. You can see kind of all the corresponding information on this guy in terms of all the items that I've kind of ran through. but it's all broken down for you. And like I said, really the claim to fame here is going to be the 4K, 144 hertz, 1 millisecond response, fast IPS, G-Sync and FreeSync, that display HDR 400 standard. And then this is also a really cool technology called ELMB. If you're not familiar with it, it's backlight strobing. And being able to have ELMB traditionally means that you can't run adaptive sync at the same time, but ASUS really kind of pioneered being able to run both these at the same time, and they can definitely provide a big motion clarity improvement. So it's something that I recommend always trying out. It might not be beneficial in every single game scenario, but the way I look at it is that if it can benefit me in a couple of games and I can easily kind of turn it off and on, it's just another great option, similar to like Shadow Boost, which we offer as part of some of the options within our Game Plus or Game Visual software that you can go ahead and enable to be able to give you a better experience when gaming. Variable drive, and here you can actually see that display widget software, which you can just download it and then you have a full UI so you can adjust things. The thing I really like about the display widget software also is that you can customize it. So you can actually have like different profiles mapped to different applications. So if you open up, let's say like your web browser, you could have it set to maybe like reading mode, or maybe with a higher level of blue light filtering, where if maybe you jump into like an action RPG versus like a competitive FPS title, you can actually have different settings so that you can customize your experience, and you don't have to kind of worry about going to your monitor and kind of switching back and forth. You can actually have those all mapped, and when it's essentially detected those executables are running, it will switch through that for you. So I find display widget being one of these things that a lot of people don't even realize that we have, but it's really great benefit. And last but not least, keep in mind that ASUS monitors across the board offer a 3-year warranty. There are some competitors with similar monitors that only offer a 1-year warranty. And we also, for many of our monitors, offer what's called ASUS rapid replacement programs. So you can definitely find out more regarding information on monitor coverage by checking out the support website and the corresponding monitor warranty information. Yes, yeah. So Connor, you asked about there that you weren't aware that you can run them at the same time. This is correct. Most people that began getting familiarity of kind of knowing about backlight strobing first kind of came about with ULMB, which is present in many of the high-end G-Sync based monitors, like our PG series, which have a dedicated FPGA chip to handle this. But you could not run G-Sync simultaneously with the ULMB. It was essentially one or the other. And so it was a really big breakthrough as we introduced monitors that offer ELMB sync, which essentially means that they can run our motion blur reduction technology in tandem with the adaptive sync. And again, it's one of these things that many times users, until they really try it out, cannot really appreciate the value for it. And again, it's something that not necessarily you'll appreciate in every single game scenario, because it can have different kind of byproducts in terms of what it renders on the screen to the total experience. But I can definitely tell you that once you actually can see the motion clarity improvements in some scenarios, you definitely would want to kind of try it out and see if it aligns with the games that you're playing and being able to provide you a better experience. All right, guys. So that is the TUF Gaming VG28UQ UQ L1A. So quite a bit there, but pretty cool. All right, so next up here, let's go actually talk about a graphics card. So we haven't talked about graphics cards recently, and definitely we understand the challenges that there are in terms of graphics card availability. We are, of course, continuing always working with our channel partners to continue to offer replenishment and push availability as much as we can. And as I always recommend is continue to be active in monitoring the e-tailers that you're looking for in terms of availability. As some of you might have seen, there was a general announcement for AMD, I think, offering a really great graphics card for those of you kind of in that 1080p high image quality, and even transitioning into a quality 1440p based graphics card with the 6600 XT. So I essentially just wanted to give you guys a quick update to let you know the two new models that we'll have that kind of make an alignment for that series. Okay, we might dive a little bit deeper later into kind of a dedicated stream, kind of giving you guys some insights into these models if you guys are interested in it. But as of right now, we're not going to dive 100% into all these full elements. We've definitely talked about quite a bit in the past, a lot of the value proposition with ASUS series cards. But the first card I want to show you is going to be our dual series card. So a lot of you are familiar with our ROG Strix, which is our highest end graphics cards, then our TUF Gaming graphics cards, and then positioned below the TUF Gaming series will be our dual series. We also have a KO series and a Turbo series. And then our kind of most entry series, and generally only a single fan, is going to be our Phoenix series graphics cards. As this graphics card is still performance oriented, you still have the kind of dual fan implementation. You get our Axial Tech-based fans, which have static pressure optimization, help to focus airflow down into that heatsink assembly. It's got a really nice, clean, monochromatic kind of design aesthetic. Will really work in all kinds of builds. You still get a backplate on this card as well. Single PCI Express power connector on this graphics card, so it's clean in terms of that. It's got a really nice, clean overall ID. This card will be positioned at a lower price point than the higher-end ROG Strix version of the graphics card. As always, there's also be a difference in terms of the program clock speed, so you can take a look at the tech spec information to see the difference between programmed clocks. I will talk a little bit about, though, that the overall kind of construction quality is identical. And what we mean by that is that how we produce our graphics cards is a process that we call ASUS Auto Extreme. We're the only manufacturer to unilaterally produce our graphics cards 100% utilizing an SMT production process. And I'll actually show you a little bit of video on kind of what SMT production is all about. But this is the dual series card, okay? And now let's go ahead and take a look here at the ROG Strix version of the graphics card. The ROG Strix card is definitely going to be a little bit more kind of in line with what some enthusiasts are looking for, and perfectly complements kind of the look and feel, of course, of ROG-based products. And you'll see right off the bat that it looks very similar to kind of the triple fan design, has the updated ID design language, looks really cool, has the, of course, Axial Tech-based fans as well there. Both of these cards also support the 0 dB operating mode, which means that when the cards are underneath a certain power envelope and a certain load, the fans will stop to allow for quieter operation. This card will differentiate itself by also, like I said, offering improved aspects in terms of the performance through different clock speed programming. You'll also see the backplate that's on here, which is a little bit different. And then, of course, the RGB lighting, which is also on this card. So this card does have ASUS Aura Sync compatible lighting. So this could be controlled and configured within the ARMRAID software and synced within other devices. And for some of you that might not be aware, we did make a recent update not that long ago, which does allow the addressable lighting pattern to also be mirrored with other addressable lighting that you have within ASUS Aura Sync. And there's your display output configuration. Let me go ahead and see if I can actually do a little bit of side-by-side. Tell me what you guys think. Which card do you like the most here? Looking at the two, you like the Strix card or the dual card? Now, the tricky part too, though, is that most people will install a graphics card horizontally. I don't think I have an image here of the dual horizontally, but it'll look very clean and compact as well. So both of them very cool cards, 6600 XT. And so, of course, you'll be looking at channel availability a little bit later. So that is an update on that side. All right, guys. And one other kind of just update that I want to make right there is that for some of you may not be aware, but of course we do have a wide range of power supplies that we do have available, and we have also gone ahead and released a power supply calculator. So if you guys kind of want to reference anything, you can do that here on our power supply calculator site. You can see right here that we've got our Tough Gaming power supplies. They go up to 750 watts. And then we have our RG Strix, and then we have our highest end Thor series power supply. So you can learn about each one of these respective models, all the specification information, but you can go ahead and put in your CPU, your GPU, and get that. You even have a little adjustment option here for overclocking, because a lot of times people, when they're asking about kind of whether a power supply will work, will forget about overclocking. Depending on settings that you might have enabled in your motherboard, overclocking the graphics card, the number of fans and other things like that, you can easily be adding like another 100 watts, 200 watts to a system profile. So it's important to not only account for the kind of the base components that you're running, but you also want to account for how you're running those components. If you're overclocking them, you definitely, I generally recommend a conservative increase of about 100 to probably 150 watts, and in some cases it could even be more than that. It just really depends on the total scope of the system, the number of devices you're running, your RGB configuration, and things along those lines. But definitely with these cards, they are quite a bit kind of less power hungry than you might have with a much higher end card, and they would probably fit within a system where comfortably probably the recommendation would be something like a 550 to 650 watt power supply would be in line with probably most type of system configuration builds that people would be looking for there. Awesome, Connor. Thanks for being Team Thor, man. The Thor 1200 is absolutely beastly power supply, and for those of you that are wondering, we have talked about there is a next generation Thor going to be coming. So, as always, make sure to keep it tuned here to the PC DIY show and to our community for more information on the latest generation of products when we announce them. So, pretty cool there. All right, guys. So let me go ahead and jump into our next update here. Move that out of the way. All right, guys. So let's go next here. What do we got? Oh, yes. Actually, I wanted to show this to you guys. Give me 1 second to upload this here. I think, yep, I have it right here. Okay, and so this is just a little bit of quick video I wanted to show you guys on the ASUS Auto Extreme production process. So again, a big point for us outside of when you're talking about the thermal design, which would be things like the fan, the heatsink assembly, the customization that we might make to the clock speeds, things like the RGB lighting, even the heatsink design where we've got like our max contact heatsink design, specialized fan connect headers, and kind of different types of aspects. When you talk about the actual graphics card itself, a key thing that I think is really valuable to us is that whether you're buying our most entry-level graphics cards to our highest-end graphics card, they all get produced utilizing the ASUS Auto Extreme production process. And while that's kind of a fancy marketing name, really what it means is that we have a robotic production process that goes to accurately, consistently place all the key power components on the actual PCB, and then also includes an advanced qualification and validation process, which to me, I think, especially when you make the investment in a graphics card, it's really awesome to be able to see this. So if you take a look right here, you'll actually see this is actually in our headquarters. Some of our actually great product managers that we have and lead individuals that help to implement these kind of design practices. And what they're kind of talking about here in this video is that many people didn't realize that a lot of graphics cards actually are still assembled through hand actually construction. So our commitment to use this advanced automated production process really is where we feel that we've set a benchmark in the industry since we first rolled this out a few years ago. And it's like I said, unilaterally on our AMD and our NVIDIA-based graphics cards. This is independent of the thermal design and many other elements of the graphics card. But when you're talking about just the card construction itself and alignment also with the selection of our power components, this is all part of what we call our Auto Extreme production process. So here you can just kind of see an example of how things go, how those components get placed on there, the actual specialized process that we utilize, and then from there, also the actual validation and the analysis that actually occurs. So it's pretty cool to know that your cards go through this process and helps us to kind of really set the standard in terms of the overall production for graphics cards. All right, guys. Let's see here. I think next got the ROG Strixscope NX. Yes. Actually, let's quickly touch on here just this one item, which is going to be the PN51. I'm going to actually do a deeper dedicated live stream just on this guy. For some of you that are essentially excited about kind of like mini PCs, this is one that we made a little bit of an announcement a while back, but this is the Asus Mini PC PN51. And the cool thing is this is a bare bone unit, so you do have to add your your storage, your M.2 or SATA-based SSD and your DRAM. Although we do have one model that comes with onboard memory, but you still also have to add your own storage. But this utilizes AMD's essentially U-series processors, the latest 5000 series, all the way from the 5300 all the way up to the 5700, which integrates Radeon-based graphics. It's actually quite impressive in terms of the performance, a lot of display output connectivity options that are available to you here. Very compact operating envelope. You're generally going to be talking sub 30 watts in terms of power consumption on these units, but compact, high performance. You can see you have 3 display output configurations there, including DP, a USB-C with DP support, and then another, HDMI and 2 essentially DP output streams, 2.5 gigabit networking and Wi-Fi 6. Integrated microphones, super speed USB connectivity, really nice compact units. And they also do come included with the VESA mount. So if you want to put them like on the back of the monitor, you can do that. These make for really cool, small, compact systems, whether you want to do like maybe your own cloud storage, maybe you want to create a small dedicated kind of basic, maybe a web-based gaming box or kind of like little indie gaming box. You want a general productivity system, really nice and flexible. And you have, of course, the choice to be able to customize elements of it, like the storage and the memory configurations you have, and then just pick the right CPU. They'll be coming in at a respective price point starting at around $360 and then goes up to a higher price point depending on the kind of the primary CPU configuration that you pick. But all kind of the key specifications in terms of that Wi-Fi 6E, 2.5 gigabit networking, the 3 display output configuration, the 2.5G Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0 standard, the super speed connectivity, even the integrated micro SD card slot, integrated dual array microphones. Those are all going to be consistent on any one of the models you look at. So I think this is a really cool little exciting unit if you're interested in these kind of small form factor mini PCs. Hey Brian, happy to have you here for the stream, man. Thanks for joining. So let me just go ahead and show you. If you guys are interested, you can check out the product page for this guy. We do have it up here. Let me see if I have it up, I believe. PN51. Yep, here it is. Okay. So you can go ahead and kind of pretty much find out about all the information right here. Like I said, with this unit, you get a lot of really cool, I think, design benefits on this model right here. You can just see how kind of compact it is. I love, like I said, that you have that flexibility in terms of the display configuration, that new 5000U series processor from AMD in terms of the Ryzen lineup with that Radeon-based graphics, easily drive multi-monitor configurations, full acceleration for video, support right there as well. And you can see right there the overall dimensions, the integrated mic. There's your, of course, your super speed USB-C, your micro SD, USB Type A port right there, and then on the rear, of course, you have more connections. And on the you also have taken mind to be able to make sure that you have sensible thermal characteristics for not only things like your storage, but the CPU, as well as the overall kind of acoustic consideration, because you don't want a system like this to be loud. So that's a great thing also, is that the experience is quite solid. And you can see a lot of connectivity options that you have available to you on this model as well. And in terms of availability, look towards kind of the middle of September timeframe, possibly as you move into the end of September timeframe for the PN51. It depends. You'll be able to see it at kind of retailers like Newegg. You'll be able to see it on our e-store. You'll be able to see it at kind of B&H. But as we get a little bit closer towards availability, we'll also probably have some updates here if there's any of you that are interested in a mini PC. Hey, Watchum, if you're interested in working with us, always feel free. Take a look at our marketing contact email on our website, and feel free to send us over an email. We're always interested in seeing about potential collaborations and opportunities. So feel free to go ahead and reach out to us. Okay. And John, if you were asking about specialized fan headers, if you weren't aware, what I was referring to is that on our graphics cards, the actual fan headers on the graphics card on our RG Strix series, we actually have what we call Fan Connect 2. So there's an actual header on the graphics card so that you can plug in fans. And an example of that might be maybe you have your front intake fans, and you could have your front intake or fans respond to the GPU temperature as opposed to the CPU temperature, for instance. So you've got different kind of flexibility, and you generally you're not going to find those type of specialized design attributes or those headers on, let's say, like our TUF Gaming graphics cards or our dual series graphics cards. Okay, so next up, I think we ran through there. Let me see. You got 6600 XT, Moonlight White, PN51, the Creator motherboard, the VG28UQ L1A, and now the ROG Strix Scope NX. So let's go ahead and bring this guy up right here. This is a pretty cool keyboard, and like I said, it's going to look very similar to the keyboard here, so I'll go ahead and a closer shot of this one right here. But here you can see the TKL version of the RG Strix Scope, one of my absolute favorite keyboards that we have. And you can get this keyboard already right now. It is already available in terms of the standard model, which uses Cherry MX keys. But if you kind of search for it online, you can already pick it up. It will generally vary, but it's usually about a little bit over $100, about $110. So it's very, very reasonably priced in terms of its overall price point. And I can go ahead and show you a little bit closer look at this one, because I've got it like right here, except the main difference for this new model will be that it uses our NX-based switches. And I'm going to show you a little video right here in a moment and a website which kind of dives into some of the design differences. So it's just a recap. Of course, there's no 10 key, but it does have a detachable USB-C input right there. You do have, of course, adjustment feet right there that you have available to you. For kind of size differential, you can see, of course, this is the Falchion, which is even a more compact keyboard that we offer, which is also wireless. This is a wired keyboard. Okay. The media keys right here are mapped into terms of function. So you can go ahead and map between, of course, your function keys and, of course, things like, volume, play, pause, and those type of adjustments. If you want, you can remap any one of the keys through the ASUS Armoury Crate software. You do have hardware level lighting controls, so you can use like function and the arrow keys to adjust lighting modes and color and brightness if you wanted to go ahead and adjust it without utilizing the software. There is onboard memory profiles. Some keyboards within this price class might only have like one profile, or they might have limited profiles. I believe you can have actually up to 5 profiles for this keyboard. in terms of that. Okay, you do also, of course, have multiple large rubber padding right there to help to go ahead and stabilize this once it's placed on board. And then you also, as you see right there, have that RGB LED light bar. So let me go ahead and plug this guy in. We can take a closer look, and we'll also take a look here at this. So give me one sec here. Put our falchi on and show you this guy's video here. So this is a little video right here about highlighting our brand new NX-based switches. So we will be releasing multiple NX-based switches, and you will have some options. The key thing here is we have gone ahead and kind of refined the overall actuation and reset point, as well as the actual actuation force. Another element too is going to be the actual what's called deviation tolerance. So something that people don't necessarily realize is that when you go producing a switch, there actually is going to be differences in terms of the switch themselves. So the physical switch between producing one switch and another switch, there can actually be a difference in terms of the consistency and the performance of that switch. So similar to actually we did with our mice, where our ROG micro switches, so the switches for your left and right, we have ultra tight tolerances of the gram force consistency between your left and your right, where we're assuring you that essentially you're going to meet a certain gram force deviation. We have done the same thing to be able to have a tighter tolerance than industry standard on the ROG NX based switches. And so what that essentially means is that you're more likely to feel a consistent level of experience across all the keys. Somebody that probably is a very good touch typist and has a high kind of, I'd say, usage across the entirety of the keyboard will probably notice this more than probably someone that hunts and pecks a little bit more, because you're a little bit more targeted, just kind of doing one key at a time. But it is something that over time you definitely notice a difference between the two. So let me go ahead and plug this in here. Yeah, so if you like that headset, that's the ROG Delta headset. We do actually have some wireless headsets, including our ROG Strix Go 2.4 and our ROG Strix Go BT. So if you do want wireless, and our new Tough Gaming H3 wireless, which is also cool. So let me go ahead and show you guys here. Let me go ahead and there we go. Let me drop this down a little bit so you guys can see the lighting there. There we go. Okay, so that is the keyboard right there. You can see it's got this nice brushed metal finish there. It's on the top. You can see the function keys right there, where you can see that we prioritize actually the usage function keys. So, you know, play, stop, fast forward, or kind of previous and forward, and then your media key functions, as well as your stealth key. Your stealth key right here will auto minimize everything. It'll actually mute your system and close all your windows. And then your RGB lighting, and then of course you can see right there the actual light bar that's on the front, which looks really cool once you got to kind of layer it down. And then of course this cable right here, like I said, is detachable. So that will be the ROG Strix NX. And let me go ahead and actually bring up the product page for you guys so you can take a look at the information there. If you're interested in that model, the product page is already up for it. So you can definitely check out the information on this guy. And for those of you that are interested in picking up anything that also might be wireless, make sure to check out our stream next week. I can already tell you we've got a promo code, so we're going to be saving you guys some money. All right. So again, this is the ROG Strix NX, and let's go ahead and bring up the page for you guys. Yes, and we actually have two pages right here. We have a dedicated page that is just for the NX-based switches, where you can kind of find out more. So here you can see, you'll just kind of click this link and it will take you to actually find out more, but kind of runs through everything. Here you can see that kind of compact setup where you can see that nice proximity, of course, with your mice, that detachable design. As I noted right there, here you can see actually all the operating metrics and see how they differ between kind of the industry standard in terms of the switches. The function remapping option, which I talked about right there. Stealth mode option, which I also talked about. Of course, fully supports ASUS Aura RGB Sync lighting. all accessible through the Armoury Crate software. And like I noted, also onboard memory, on-the-fly macro recordings, including on-the-fly control for your lighting profiles. And you can actually see more of our information on kind of different models right there. But if you do head back over here, I think it's up here at the top, you can click this and we'll actually take you to a full site, which actually will break down our ROG specific switches, our ROG RX switch, which we have on the ROG Strix Scope RX and the Claymore 2, and then the new NX-based switches, okay? And we also even have little audible cue profiles so you can actually hear kind of what they sound like between the reds, the browns, and the blues. And here's a little bit of a breakdown where you'll see kind of some of the key differences right here. All right. All right, guys. So that covers that. All right. And last but not least, I've got one update for you guys here on Z590, where we're going to have a new update on the ROG Strix Z59 Gaming Wi-Fi 2. I'll cover this probably a little bit more next week, dive into a little bit kind of some key differences between this model. They're going to look pretty similar in terms of the two boards. If you guys aren't aware, kind of the real big popular aspect regarding the ROG Strix Z590 series, and I would say the Dash A ROG Strix models in general for both AMD and Intel, is going to be the fact that these boards are in a white design aesthetic. So if we actually take a look right here, you can see this board is really a great choice for those of you who want to go with a white theme to build. Of course, supports your 10th gen and 11th gen series processors, PCI Gen 4 support, has a huge range of really great features and functions that we've introduced for the Z590 generation. We have a full dedicated live stream that talks about all the really cool design implementations that we have that is on this generation of boards, but this will just be an updated offering that we're going to have. So make sure to keep it tuned here. The availability information I'll probably talk about, like I said, a little bit in the future as we get a little bit closer to channel availability. But for those of you kind of interested, here is a little bit of information on that guy. All right. Hey, Robert. Any plans on making a gaming keypad? So I'm not sure if you mean by keypad, do you mean actually like a gamepad? I can't, we generally try not to go into any products that may be potentially under design or development, things along those lines, until we actually make like a teaser or a formal announcement. I can tell you definitely our peripheral design team as a whole is definitely committed at continuing to look at, I think, a lot of interesting options. I think when we looked at things like the Claymore 2 with this touchable design, when you've looked at things like the Falchion with the actual media keys that we have on there, the media touch bar and remappable kind of touch bar, and even I think our systems business group, which developed things like the Kunai gamepad, we're always kind of looking at different types of options to be able to benefit our enthusiast users. So there's always things that are kind of being worked on by our design team, and definitely, like always, make sure to just keep it tuned. I can literally tell you, probably almost week to week, we're always announcing new kind of products across the wide range of our product portfolio. So there's always a lot to kind of keep aware of what ASUS might be working on, and definitely if it falls into the PC DIY ecosystem, this is your best place to be able to tune in and find out what we're doing in terms of kind of new products, new features, as well as kind of insights into whether or not we might have a dedicated live stream or discussion within our group on kind of giving you more insights into any of those products that we might have. Okay. So so definitely, I would say make sure to keep it tuned. Right now, the only kind of gamepad that we do offer is going to be the Kunai, which is could be potentially kind of course cross compatible, but it was first purposely designed for the ROG Phone 5. But I would definitely say, if you guys are interested in that, we'd love to have your feedback on, what are things that you would like to see specifically within your gamepad, right? I think a lot of gamers right now that are utilizing a gamepad are probably using, an Xbox Series controller, possibly maybe using a PlayStation 5 controller, mapping it through kind of different software that's available through the community. Xbox is, of course, a first-party offering because it has mapped software already built within Windows and works really well, whether you're using a wired or a wireless-based controller option. But there are also some other great, other manufacturers that are producing some great gamepads as well that can be used on the platform. But we'd love to see what your guys' feedback, what would be kind of the features and functions, the design attributes you would like to see in this, because I definitely think that our commitment in terms of the product portfolio that we have, we're always interested in kind of listening to what the community wants to see from us in that regard. Okay. Hey Connor, so any plans on making an RGB fan? So yes, so this is one that we've actually had for quite a bit of time. A lot of people have asked us about whether or not we're going to actually be releasing a fan sometime in the future. So we recently released the ROG Strix XF120, which is a black 120 millimeter fan. Very high performance maglev bearing, really, really nice design. But for those of you in the RGB community, I know that there's a lot of people that have interest in one. So I can't tell you any kind of specifics on it. We are currently evaluating an RGB-based fan design. There's no kind of timeline or additional information, but I can tell you it is something that we're currently evaluating and looking at. We do realize that there is definitely value at users wanting to have an ASUS-centric solution. But with that, I will note that we have outstanding partnerships with a huge range of partners that manufacture OreSync compatible fans, you know, from Cooler Master to Fantex to Antec to Fractal Designs, ID Cooling, ASCA, so many partners that all offer, you know, 3-pin and 4-pin based fans that can directly plug into the motherboard and then have direct control from the UEFI firmware BIOS or also within the operating system, and can also be controlled through the ASUS Armoury Crate software. So there are a huge range of options, and we actually have a dedicated ASUS Aura website which lists all of the partners almost in the entirety. There might be a couple of partners that might be listed on there if maybe it's a new product or it might not maybe be as popular, but you know, we have a consistently updated kind of list there, especially from a lot of the top tier partners that we work with consistently that are shown there. So if you kind of want to get a reference of which fans I can use that I can directly connect to the motherboard and have them work through your software and have them be controlled, it's a great resource to check out and take a look at. Hey, Andrew, I actually talked a little bit about graphics cards a little bit earlier, so I'd recommend actually checking out just kind of what I blocked out there in terms of kind of availability and update information on that. But, you know, we're always actively working with channel partners to be able to refresh our inventory pretty much almost like on a weekly to bi-weekly based process. So as always, it's just a question of working, you know, directly with the e-tailer in question, taking advantage of their notification systems to be able to go ahead and, you know, have the best opportunity to be able to pick up a card when possible. Okay. All right, guys. So Wacho, if you were asking what's my favorite keyboard, I would probably say I'm a really big fan of the ROG Strix Scope RX switches, the feel and consistency of how smooth they are, the fact that they're optical, the wobble-free design, and also the really clean, consistent lighting that switch design has me being a really big fan of that. So personally, for me, you know, my go-to recommendation is probably going to be for the ROG Claymore 2 keyboard, which has the detachable numpad design. And of course, if you're on a little bit more limited budget and you're fine with the traditional 10 key based keyboard, I really love the ROG Strix Scope RX, which we just recently launched in blue. So you can get it in either reds or blues. I think at about $130, it's one of the absolute best keyboards out there. Really good construction. Really love the feel and performance of those switches. I love the USB pass-through design on it. Even the kind of the cable that it comes with. I'm a really big fan of that keyboard. So I think those two would probably be my favorite if I had to pick some. But I really think it depends. You know, this guy right here too, the ROG Strix Scope TKL, I think is also a really great option. And the fact that we're going to have it in the Moonlight White. We've got this design. We have an Electro Punk version, which is really cool with like a pink accent colorway. Also, I think is a really nice offering too. So. And the Falchion, I know a lot of people that have started to pick up this guy since we recently released this model, and it's really cool because it's so compact. I love the fact that, you know, it's USB Type-C. You can use it wired and wireless, 2.4 gigahertz low latency wireless. It's got this really cool touch bar which you can map for kind of different functions, and it even has these PBT keycaps which feel really nice and premium. Really, of course, good for, of course, wear resistance. And I love the cover. I love that you have this nice little cool, you know, docking tray that you can put this in. And now it's got this nice kind of little illumination to it. You can still see you can access all the buttons right there, and then you could remove this, right? And you could actually then cover it. I won't use this because I don't want to mess up my stream right here. I might accidentally turn something off, but you can actually put that over that and then protect it because you could actually travel with it. So that's a really cool little design there for the Falchion. So a lot of cool keyboards there. All right, guys. So I think that probably takes care of most of their questions that we had there. Let me just double check if there's anything else that might kind of pop up there. Hey, Rance. Yeah, the ROG Zephyr 17. That's a pretty sweet laptop. We're actually going to be doing a live stream with Newegg where we're going to do a deep dive into actually talking about the latest generation 2021 ROG Strix 15 and 17-inch laptops. So I'm going to be actually hosting that with Newegg and Juan Carlos Bagnell. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be happening next week, so make sure to check that out if you guys are interested. We're also going to be launching a dedicated systems live stream, and this kind of will be in addition to what our great content team is doing with the ROG Pulse, which if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure to check that out. They do great dives into some of our ROG series products, along with a lot of other cool gaming related and kind of ASUS and ROG related content. But we're going to have a dedicated SPG live stream like we have here with the PC DIY live stream, but it's going to be focusing on our system related products. So if you're interested in ASUS kind of laptops, phones, and kind of the range of products that we offer on our systems related side of the fence, then that's also going to be a live stream you guys want to be checking out that will be kicking off hopefully as we get ready to move into September. So I will also be hosting that stream. So make sure to keep it tuned for, of course, more updates when that comes around. All right, guys. All right, guys. So overall, that wraps up the stream. Hopefully you guys found this interesting and useful. I did note that this week we were hoping to bring back the PC DIY Builder Spotlight, but just from prep time, we're actually going to be bringing that back for next week's stream. So if those of you are not familiar with the PC DIY Builder Spotlight, what we'd love to do in the PC DIY Builder Spotlight is highlight system builds. So you actually can go into our PC DIY group, upload your builds, and there's a little bit of questionnaire to get some insights in terms of kind of your build and your system and your configuration. And the thing I love about doing that is just being able to really kind of highlight the time and effort that you guys put into putting together your guys' systems. It's really cool. It's really exciting and something that I'm really excited about bringing back and being able to recognize all the things that you guys do when it comes to kind of cool system builds and system setups with the kind of the PC DIY Builder Spotlight. So if you guys want to find out more about that, make sure to go ahead and join us. Join us, in the PC DIY stream. The PC DIY group. You can actually look up the PC DIY Builder Spotlight form, submit your system, and hopefully get featured here on the live stream where we can talk about your guys' build. So it doesn't matter too. It can be mini ITX, it can be micro ATX, it could be ATX, it could be air cooled or it could be water cooled. It could be from 3 years ago, or you could have just built it. The pretty much only key requirement that we're looking for is that it has an ASUS motherboard. Graphics cards are generally recommended, and generally what we also do focus off ASUS motherboard and graphics card pairings, but we do have some flexibility. You can take a look at kind of the full submission information there listed below, but I think it's a great way to be able to get some inspiration, some insights, some reference, and also be able to get some cool exposure if you guys are looking to be able to show off your guys' build. So with that, guys, hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your guys' Friday. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care, take it easy, and you guys have a great weekend. And hope to see you guys in the PC DIY group. And of course, if you guys have any questions, comments that that I didn't get to, drop them in the comment section, whether you're checking us out on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll do my best to go ahead and follow up with you guys when I can. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day.